Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, my precious pack, and welcome back once more to Vega Conflict. Let's go ahead and let's have a look at the Leviathan real quick. Alright, stats-wise. 8-hour repair time across the board from Mark 1 up to Elite, so that never changes no matter what you equip on it. Effective range 1,000 to 12,000 meters. So it has a small blind spot around it. However, due to the hitbox, I actually don't think you can get on top of it unless you're using Pharmacon you phase through the target, in which case then you could technically sit on top of it where it couldn't hit you. Health, 25,000 hit points at Mark 1, 1,700, alright. Maximum mass should be the same as the others at Mark 1. Yeah, it's the same. Cargo, 119,000 tons. 119 million tons. Pardon me, I'm a little bit tired, as you're going to know. Speed, 640 meters per second forwards. Rotation speed, 25 degrees per second. Strafe, 100 meters per second. And that's, I believe, 5 times greater than that of the regular ones. Yeah. Sector speed, 600 by default, with the others having 480, so it is faster alone than with a fleet, unless you have elites. Okay, first overdrive. Incapacitate. Each enemy inside the Leviathan's firing arc increasingly adds stasis to its weapons, inhibiting the abilities of the enemies to evade incoming damage. Now I can say this is stupidly amazing. If you can get into a fight where you're always going to be outnumbered, you can completely stop the advancing enemies and just pick them apart. Seems broken, and it is. And it's stupidly funny. Bloodthirst. Continue aggression, yay. When it does 750 damage, a stack is applied, and it's a 6% damage increase, so 30% at Mark 1. Ugh. Give me a minute to yawn. Alright. When the Leviathan Dreadnought takes 2,000 damage, an aggressive salvo of explosive missiles erupts from the Leviathan. Now, these things, when they launch, you cannot miss them. They literally fire effectively like... the best way to put it, it looks like you're launching Hydra missiles at extremely long ranges. Oh, and they don't miss the target, as you could have guessed. Armor, health, 100%. Damage, 100% increase. Weapon mass, minus 10%. Armor mass, alright, so those are just the basic reductions that we're seeing. And then shield damage increased by 5%. Resistances starts with the same as what most of the other tier 8 stuff does in terms of Mark 1. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the higher mark levels to the ship itself real quick. Let's go right to the Elite. At Elite, you'll get 1 additional weapon slot, bringing it to a total of 9. You'll get an additional armor slot, ablative slot, bringing it to a total of 6 of each. You'll get a resistance slot, and you only have 1. Now, this is something I rarely ever use. I don't think I'll be able to use it on this one either, because I may actually be using... what's the name of the special? Ifrit thrusters. I'm actually thinking of adding them to it, because here's another thing. As you may have noticed, going through the standard stats, we didn't see a ablative value. It has no ablative by default. That means the ablative you apply is through its armors and ablatives. So you're lucky that it's not like the Behemoth. So your value is extremely high, and it's very easy to regain your ablative with the Leviathan. Sector speed increased by 30% over the base value, so it would be... what? 180? It would be 780, which is the same as what all the other elites are. Armor health, 400% damage per second, 200%, weapon mass minus 70%, armor mass 25, ablative armor 25, shield damage increased of 25% over the base. I think that's 130% shield damage, healing resistance of 50%. Let's have a look at the Bloodlust. When it deals 1,150 damage, it is applied for 8 seconds. And it is a 10%, so it stacks up to 50%. And I mean, 1,150, that value, you fire once, and you're basically going to be activating it against any target. Because you fire one volley, the volley goes off, damages the target heavily, and basically just bleeds through and just activates, so you're actually getting that damage very easily. And the onslaught damage goes up to a maximum of 3,500 damage per second for the volley. And they are amazing. Alright, so with all of that said, let's go ahead and let's talk about the ship for a moment. Thus far, it has been actually quite enjoyable to use. It is extremely maneuverable in comparison to the previous Dreadnoughts. It is not sluggish at all, and when you first get it, you're going to immediately know that and notice that the acceleration is just incredible. The ranges, being able to use the tier 8 weapons and having that extreme range as well, it is amazing. And due to it being a Dreadnought, it's got the twin fire arcs out in the front, and it just, if you can keep your enemies in front of you in those twin fire arcs, you can just pick everything apart very easily. I can't wait to get mine to Elite, and I'm also going to be equipping it with a jump drive because, well, it's got one. I can't increase the repair time, so why wouldn't I just fit everything I can to it? Because I shouldn't have to be afraid of repair time with this one because it's a set value. Now, at the lower mark levels, it's not going to be all that viable for farming because it's an 8-hour repair time for 81,000 hit points for what my fitting has. But it gets the job done, and it can be used as a cargo hauler for now. At least until I strap the jump drive to it. But as you can see, 5 weapon slot, 5 ablative armor slots, 5 basic armor slots, a skin slot, trigger slot, and yes, it can use the trigger. 8 weapon slots. Basically, it is effectively a behemoth with 1 more ablative, 1 more armor at Mark 1. It has 1 less special, but it doesn't have squadron slots. It has a resistance slot, as we saw with the Mark upgrade, but it doesn't have access to it to begin with, so I don't know if they're planning anything with that in the future, or if it's actually just such a light enough ship as it progresses upgraded that it actually reduces it enough that you can make use of it. But other than that, the fitting is fairly straightforward, and this may look like a very mediocre value of ablative armor, but I had very little issues actually fighting with it. And I have 4 targets. I hit the counterfaction, which you would not Pharmacon. I hit its counterfaction, so you would want, it would be Altarians. I hit the Champion, 100, the Crusader 100, the Pioneer 100, and then from its own faction and tier, I hit the Altarian Skirmisher, which is where you get your Valravens. Now, at first I was expecting it to not be able to farm them. I wasn't expecting it to actually take as little damage as it did. When I went into the fight, I was initially expecting it to complete the fight, but I was expecting it to take at least 15% damage for the level 103 target. As you're going to see, that was not the case. Let's go ahead and let you jump over to that footage now. Let's start with the 103 target. This is the Altarian Skirmisher 103, and this is the attack that it quickly changed my thoughts on exactly how durable the ship was, and more importantly, just what it was capable of. Now, remember what I said. I expected it to take at least 15% damage, and towards the end of the fight, it had actually only taken 7%. 15%, 7%. There's a fairly large difference there. And that is a good thing, though. It's a good thing because, well, I expected it to take at least an hour and 40, if not more, minutes worth of repair time from the fight. It took 54 minutes and 32 seconds. I deemed that farmable with the new Dreadnought. And as you can see, mobility is no issue. The only thing that I've noticed is I want to turn a little bit more quickly, and I intend on making it turn a little bit more quickly with Ifrit, because unlike the Behemoth, I'm not concerned with the drawback of the ablative drain and stuff like that, because it doesn't have built-in ablative. Its value is literally that of its armor. And because the value is that of its... And look at that. The mobility allows you to dodge with it. This big old cumbersome ship, and you can dodge with it. But due to the built-in ablative, as I was saying before, I have absolutely no issues recommending Ifrit thrusters for it, because you can increase that value from 25 degrees of rotation speed per second to 37.5. Now, it turns beautifully now, but I can't wait to strap the thrusters to it and stuff like that. I can't wait to get Mark upgrade. I can't wait to start using the next generation of Dreadnought. And there will be another video on Friday talking about the Dreadnoughts, because, well, I love how Tier 8's Dreadnought has opened up, and I haven't talked enough about it, but it's animated. As you can see, it's moving. Aside from it actually floating around, it's shifting around and stuff like that. The arms are moving. It's kind of like a giant spider crawling along the floor or the wall or doing something like that. And I love the fact that most of the ships are animated as of lately, especially the Dreadnoughts. I mean, just look at that. That is just gorgeous. And I do have suggestions for what the next few Dreadnoughts could look like, and I want to see what all of you think as well. But each of the but that will be for later. Back to the subject. Each of the targets was actually fairly easy, and now we have the Altarian Champion. Yeah, the Altarian Champion 100. And the ship at Mark 1 with my build has effectively 20,000 DPS, but we all know DPS isn't really relevant because alpha damage is the primary thing. Can you destroy a ship in one shot? Stuff like that. Well, the mixture of increased shield damage as well as the pure alpha that it has allows it to just eat these things alive. And the fact that it's stripping their defense off so quickly, it can just feed on that health under that armor and just keep its ablative up. And if you're paying attention to the bottom, its ablative is almost maxed out constantly, because it is just regenerating at such a high value so quickly. It is just amazing. And I believe that that will be the primary feature with the Umbral Dreadnought moving forwards, is the ablative regeneration. You can be extremely aggressive with it, because unlike the Behemoth, you're not going to have the issues. You're not going to be held back by the built-in ablative. You can be as aggressive as you want with this thing, and if you attach Ifrit thrusters to it, you don't have to worry about anyone getting behind you either, because you can rotate so quickly in place that you'll be able to bring the guns to bear and begin regenerating again. And the Ifrit thrusters, they have such a low ablative value being added to the total requirement to activate as well as what's being regenerated, that it should have no issues being able to hit the target, strip their defense, and just start farming their health. And that is one of the things I just love about the ship. It's the fact that it just regenerates at such a very quick rate. And I can't wait to see what they do, because there has been mention of potentially bringing Resurgence to Tier 8 armor in the future. Now, I don't know if that's going to be like a special type of armor. You know, it's not going to have any specific resistance. So, you know, it's not going to be explosive, energy, or kinetic, or alien, or anything. It may. I don't know anything like that, but I do have suggestions for that. But if they do something like that, that means theoretically we could have a truly undying ship on our hands, a true undying Dreadnought. Because theoretically, if it regenerates a portion of the damage that it takes as its health and it gains it back, well, we could reduce the repair times we take for the fights just by simply fighting. So, you know, it would encourage longer farming times, especially with the Elite one, if those types of armors entered the game. And in that case, I'm actually recommending quietly that the development team do so. But there is so much going for the Dreadnought that if it all happens, it'll be amazing. The last major one that I've just deeply enjoyed was the Orator, and that's because of the Zealots. It was that spawning mechanic that I always wanted to play around with. Now we have it. It's funny seeing the little throwaway ships go out and die in our stead. But I think I've chatted all of your ears off enough. Go ahead and lay your thoughts down below. But that's going to be it. Be safe out in the void. Happy hunting. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.